Hello everyone, and thanks for joining me at Angie B Cards and Crafts. So today I'm going to be working with this lovely lot. This is going to be one of my 10-minute tutorials, so it's going to be around about 10 minutes just going through one option for using old book pages and spray inks to get some interesting backgrounds. So as you can see, I have been doing it already, hence I am covered in ink. If you don't like to get messy, you can always put gloves on, but this is something I love to do and I love getting covered in ink. It makes me feel like I've done a decent day's work. So the book I'm using is an old Reader's Digest book that over the last few months I've been gradually tearing pages out of. It's come out of its binding, so I'll probably use the binding for something else at some point. And I just literally turn to a page. I don't like pages that have pictures on, it's just not what I want to use in my work. So I turn to a page with writing on and tear it out. I don't scan through it, some people do, just to make sure there's nothing dodgy on the pages. Personally, no, you can take that risk. It's just my way of doing it. So we're going to look at two different ways of using the inks. One is for this nice smooth look, and one is to get this rather crumpled and aged look. Okay, so we'll start off by getting some pages out of the book. So I'm going to go on this side, tear a few out at once and see what we've got. These are coming off nice and smooth edged, which is a rarity. Right, so we've got 4 pages there. That may be enough, we'll see. We can always get some more. So I'll just move the stamps out of the way because we don't want them covered in ink, and I'm going to move my VersaFine Clair out of the way. Now I am working on a piece of card, and if I show you the other side of this piece of card, you will see that's the one that I worked on earlier. Okay, so this to me is an option for a background for something else. So that's why I'm keeping it, and I'm turning it over. This is 300 GSM super smooth card from Pink Frog. It's brilliant, I love it. The only thing it doesn't do well is take a lot of water, but other than that, it's really, really good card. So I use it for lots of die cutting, for stamping, for inking up. I just don't tend to use as much watercolour on it. Right, so I'm going to start off with one page. Now another thing it's very useful to have when doing this method is a raggie or a not care whether or not everything gets covered in ink. I've got a lot of stuff stored on this side of me, so I want to protect it. It's where all my inks are, and I spray with my right hand, so I'm going to spray across the page. So that's why I have the raggie on this side. Okay, I'm going to start off just with using the simple sprays. I'm not going to use the shimmer sprays, which I will talk to you about in a moment. So that first one was Lemon Zest, and this one is Postbox Red, and we'll stick on a little bit of pink. I'm nearly out of pink, so it's coming out a bit splodgy, but I need to get a new bottle ordered. Right, so that is the very basics of put ink on a page and see what happens. Now there's quite a lot of ink on there, so what you can then do is get a second page, pop it on top, lay it flat. Because it's paper and it's getting wet, it tends to curl, so just make sure you've laid it flat. And this is where you see why I get covered in ink. Okay, and then you have a second page, which is quite interesting to see how it comes out. It's a bit like doing the butterfly prints that you used to do as a child, well I used to do, and then I had the fun of doing again when my son was younger. What it's also done is given us this nice little edge here, which I think just adds a little bit of interest. So I'm just going to blast these dry, and I'm using the Ranger heat tool, which just spreads the heat out a little bit more than an embossing tool. You can use an embossing tool if you want to. It's entirely up to you and what you have available. You can also choose to just put these to one side and let them dry. So this Dylusions ink is fabulous. It's water-based, so it actually comes off if you want to do any techniques like faux bleaching. But for now, we have 2 pages and we've only just started. So the next one, we're going to take our piece of paper out of our book again, and we're just going to scrunch it up. Okay, open it up and go, oh, that's not scrunched enough. So scrunch it up in a different way. I like lots and lots of little scrunches. Now, because this is quite thin paper, you don't have to wet it first. So I've scrunched it up. I'm now going to put it down on here and I'm going to spray it. Okay. And I'm going to spray it again. Just coming in from different angles. This is why it gets very, very messy doing this technique. And I'm going to spray one more colour. We'll just do a little bit of pink there and a little bit of pink on the bottom. So you can also see why I'm wanting to keep this paper underneath. So doing this, what this does, you can see all the ink running everywhere, but you can see that you've no idea where the ink's going to end up. If you want it in other places, you can scrunch it in a different way. You can spray it again, and the ink is going to end up where it's going to end up. Okay, so that's that technique, which again, it depends on what look you want. I quite like that look. The fact that I've got paler colours and some darker colours, you're starting to see some of the lines of the wrinkles of the paper. So it's quite a nice look. So that's one other one. And then one more that I'm going to show you is we're going to spray this one. We're going to use the purple this time, not use the purple. And then we'll have a little bit of the lemon. And we'll come in. I'm going to put some of the shimmer on this one. So the shimmers have got mica at the bottom, you can see there. And they just need to be carefully shaken. Now, this is my second try at making this video because the first time, neither of my shimmer sprays worked. So when I went off camera, I had a look, I took the lid off, and they actually had lots of mica up inside the tube. If I just show you the inside, there's the tube inside, and lots of mica had gotten stuck. So when I tried to squirt them, they weren't squirting. So to clear that out, I just did a squirt without the lid on, just into Raggy, to see what happens. So this one, again, if you don't like getting messy, this isn't for you, or you can put gloves on, because this is just about getting that ink everywhere on the paper and getting it fully soaked. So it's very similar technique to this, but what this one is doing is covering the whole paper. And I do think that that orange shimmer, which is called Tangerine Dream, just adds, I don't know if you can actually see that beautiful, beautiful shimmer on there. I think it adds a little je ne sais quoi. So those two are very similar techniques in that they're both about scrunching up the paper and covering them with the ink, but one of them you ink first and then scrunch, the other one you scrunch first and then ink. So it depends what look it is you're going for with your particular piece of work at any given time. So we've got all this lovely ink down on the paper as well, which I just love. I'm just going to give these a quick blast, dry them off a little bit. While it's drying, I shall remove this because we don't need it for the next bit. So the next bit is just going to be putting some stamps onto this. So I'm going to do one onto a scrunch page. I'll use this one, it's going to be the first one that's dry, and one onto a smooth page, and you can just see the difference with the stamping. Right, so we will use the first of the smooth pages and the second of the scrunch pages, and I'm going to do the same stamps on both. So we're going to start off using this lovely flower stamp. It is from AALL and Create. It's one of Tracy Evans' designs and I love it. You can see it's a well-loved stamp. I'm using VersaFine Clair ink, which is my go-to ink for stamping. The only time I don't tend to use VersaFine Clair is when I'm stamping over alcohol inks, because it doesn't quite truly dry with the alcohol inks. So I use Stays On, which is oil-based and therefore can manage alcohol ink. So I tend to turn sideways on when I'm stamping, just for ease. I'm using the Dylusions stamp block. Now, this isn't quite as thin as the AALL and Create ones, but this one just happens to be wide enough to fit this stamp on, and it does have some flexibility to it as well, which makes it quite nice to use. So there's one. I'm going to do the the same stamp onto the other one, and you will see hopefully the difference in the way the two look. So as with all stamping, always make sure one stamp is on the stamping block all the time, because this reduces the chance of it wiggling on your paper and giving you that less than crisp image. That should be enough. We'll take that off. So there we have our two stamped images. Now what I would then do is come in with other stamps. In fact, if I just do that very quickly, just show you. You can come in with something like this leaf set, which is just a freebie one that I got at some point in the past. And I'm just going to use it as a partial frame for my image. I'll just do this on one. You don't need to see it on both because that would be boring. So just because it's leaves, it doesn't mean it has to be used on a tree or a bush or going in the right direction. You can use it as a frame, you can use it as a vine hanging down, just as an edging. You can use, one of the things with stamps is you can use it in any way your imagination will take you. And that's why I love stamping so much. And I do have an awful lot of stamps, awful lot, far more than anyone should have. Now, I didn't fully ink that up. Just noticed there's some gaps at the end, so you can see I didn't quite ink up that end, but I think it still looks good. So that's almost a finished article. What you can do with that, you can either put it in your journal, you can just pop a sentiment on it, you can choose to tear the image down so it's just the flower and put a sentiment on and it'd make a nice card. But they're just a range of different things that you can do with your book pages. So there's two ways of having the smooth one and two ways of having the crumpled one. I hope you found that useful, and I've even done it almost within 10 minutes. See you soon. Bye.